Okay.
You don't know that yet.
You're all not getting hired. Okay.
Okay, should we do it?
Yeah, Elliot, you got the volume? Huh? I think more pissed off at himself, less nervous. More frustrated than anything. Because it worked easily when we played around with it earlier, but right when you need it, it doesn't work.
I'm so sorry.
Can't do anything about it.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. The Tech Audience is super excited to welcome Dylan Davis and Elliot Callender to Blockchain Thought Leaders. But I'm going to let them go ahead and do their own introduction. I just want to thank you for coming, and I hope you have a good time and you learn a lot.
Thank you, Maria. Maria did all this. She set everything up. It's great. Look how fucking massive these markers are. These are some of the biggest markers I've probably ever seen. So Elliot is currently playing around with whatever. So as he does that, I'll talk to you. Where do I want to start? Okay.
We're good, we're good.
This thing, are we fixed?
Yes.
Oh, good job.
Well, not fixed,
No,
but...
kind of fixed.
Okay. So this is being live streamed on YouTube and Periscope, and it all worked seamlessly when you guys weren't here, so it's all your fault, basically. But people online will be able to hear us, but they won't be able to hear the audio from the presentation.
Okay.
So that's okay.
Cool.
It's short anyway, doesn't matter. They just need to hear us.
So, this is a timer. And this timer will get to red. And once it goes red, it beeps. And that means we're done. So.
Doesn't mean we're done.
Oh, yeah.
It means we go to part shit.
Sure. What he said. So this session is going to be a bit different, obviously, because there's sticky notes, pens, music, a light. We're going to do a lot of stuff that's interactive. We're not just going to talk at you because that's boring for us and probably for you as well. And an important thing is the quality and the impact and the value you get from the session is solely put on you, not us. So we have a lot of stuff we can talk about, but we want to make sure the stuff we talk about is relevant and catered towards what you're interested in and what you want to talk about kind of in this niche. So if you try to talk about quantum physics or like the microbiome of a gut, I'm not going to help you there. But if you talk about blockchain, I can maybe help you.
Maybe.
So that's one thing. Anything else I'm missing before we get started?
Nope, just if you've got any questions, we will take them now, as well as all the way through the session. So it's a very highly interactive session. If there's anything that we get stuck on, or it's a slightly larger topic that we're going to speak about, that's where we'll park that shit, and we'll come back to it at the end. So that's why we have that there, okay?
So any shit that's too big for us to discuss within 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and we want to actually expand upon it, that's where we put the expansion topics on the park shit board. And what else? I'm standing in front of the camera.
I've got a question.
Sticky notes. Real quick, for your question, sticky notes. So if you are not as brave as this gentleman right here, and you want to ask a question, then write it down in your sticky note. And what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll collect it probably 2 or 3 times. We'll do rounds. And we'll collect the sticky notes from you. And then we'll put them up and we'll answer them as well. Cool? Dope. Here.
Can you introduce yourselves?
That's what we're about to do.
Oh, okay.
But I'm glad you asked because you led me right into it. Hi, my name is Dylan. Who am I? So I do this part-time. So this is kind of like my interest, and I like to do this in evenings and weekends, but I work full-time at MasterCard. And at MasterCard, I work in Canary Wharf in London, and I do 2 things, really. I figure out where to put our digital products when it comes to geographies, which geography we should put it there, so let's go to market. And then the other bit is future strategy. So that's kind of where this comes into play. Okay. So artificial intelligence, IoT, blockchain, all the big buzzwords people like to talk about, I help research those for our company and figure out what's relevant for us. But also I look into startups, regulations, and big tech players as well. It's all things strategy. That's me. Elliot, who are you?
Where do I go from there? That's like a whole load of stuff that you do there.
I do a bunch of shits.
A bunch of shits, yes.
Okay.
So I'm the founder of Node Unlock, and I started the company last January, actually, with an idea that I love the decentralized world and what it actually stood for. So with that idea, I thought, okay, how do I bring that labor of love to something that actually people enjoy? And I didn't find that for a long time, actually. It took us probably about 6 to 8 months of last year to figure out what the hell this company was. But now today, we stand in front of you, and we've essentially established that we upgrade humans. So my background is 12 years in finance, and I didn't want to go back into that world, actually. When I came back from my 18-month world trip, it was not something that I was going to dive back into. So when I found Bitcoin and then the decentralized world, I thought, okay, great, how can I use my skills to apply and contribute to this world? So that's when I started Node Unlock, met Dylan, and the rest is history. You guys are here. So hopefully you'll enjoy the way our flavor and style of teaching you guys about this decentralized world actually looks. Cool?
Superb.
Any
Okay.
questions so far? Don't be shy.
Question.
Go for it.
Why Node Unlock?
Why Node Unlock? That's a great question.
Why the name?
So
Oh, okay.
when you sit and think about a company name, it really is like, what the fuck is this company going to be, right? What do you enjoy? What do you want it to actually convey as a brand to other people as well? So when I was sitting at my kitchen table, picture this, I literally was like, okay, so it's all about the decentralized world. Great. What are we going to do with this decentralized world and this company? And effectively, I found that we were going to unlock people's potential. And nodes, as you'll see further through this talk, are part and an integral part of the decentralized network and protocols. So node unlock. Good? Cool.
Yeah. Cool. So, I need everybody to stand up, please. Awesome. So I have 3 questions, and each question that I ask, if your answer to the question is no, I want you to sit down. If your answer is yes, I want you to stay standing. Silence means you understand. Good. So the first question is, who here has heard of blockchain? If you've heard of it, stay standing. If you haven't heard of it, please sit down. Don't be shy. If you haven't heard of it, it's okay.
You're not in the wrong room.
Okay, wow, that's good. So who here has proactively researched blockchain because they were interested and they spent more than 35 minutes researching it? Okay, that's good.
Interesting.
That's good. I like it, I like it. So who here has tried to proactively teach someone blockchain because they asked you about the concept? Please sit down if you haven't. All right, we have a few takers.
So this is where we sit down. You guys can come up here, right? Cool.
Good, that's good. That helps us kind of get an idea for who's in the room. Perfect. Now, your turn, right?
So don't get used to sitting. This is not where we ask you guys to sit and listen. So stand up again. Again, we just want to get a flavor for what the decentralized world looks like today, right? So stay standing if you have used the internet in the last 48 hours. Yeah?
If not, that'd be kudos to you because we're all...
Yeah, right? Digital detox and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so stay standing if you've used email in the last 24 hours.
MBAs. That's how you know.
Yeah?
That's like English.
So everyone's still standing. Stay standing if you've used blockchain in the last week. So
I'm interested to hear how.
Yeah. 3 people have used blockchain in the last week. Care to share?
Of course.
How did you use it
LA
last week?
token, you look like you're definitely in the space. So how have you used it?
Hi everybody, my name is Vlad. I firstly used Bitcoin network to facilitate payments. That was back in 2015 for my business to reach people who don't have bank accounts in Africa. And I mean on a daily basis, I get paid in crypto, so
Great.
all the transactions are over the blockchain. So that's why it happens every day for me.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah. How about you guys,
And
the
over
other
here?
2?
Hi, my name is Mihai. I work for Cadre. We build our own solution of blockchain. I do all the automation, deployment, and all that shit.
And so what did you use for a consumer's kind of perspective? How did you use it?
I didn't.
No, you just
No.
work on it.
Yep. So
Okay.
I use our own blockchain.
Yeah.
Nice. And then there was someone over here.
Here.
I think I might have
Give her a round of applause.
I just didn't sit down fast enough. I was like,
What was that? That's brilliant.
that's good.
Okay, well, so 2 people have used blockchain in the last week. And the essence of that is just to show you visually that you guys laughed when I asked if you had used the internet in the last 48 hours, but effectively, we are in the very early days of blockchain in the decentralized world. And going forward, it will become ubiquitous. We will all be using this technology. You just won't know it. It'll just be like the different protocols that go on and connect us through what we call the internet today. So I'll laugh at you guys when you say, oh, I've not used blockchain in the last 24 hours next time. Cool. So we're going to kick on with what blockchain is, because we know that some people need to understand the kind of fundamentals of what blockchain is in a decentralized world. Then we'll take you through what the kind of problems are, very briefly, because there are definitely problems in this space. And then the majority of this session is going to be about applying your skills to the decentralized world and how you can contribute to the decentralized world. All right? So first of all, what in the heckle is it?
Blockchain.
Blockchain.
Shit.
Wrong room. So, humans have evolved and we have different ways of communicating, right? So, back in sort of the early 4000 BC onwards, we had the communication of goods through transportation. So what did that look like? It looked like horses and carts, people walking through trails like the spice trails, etc., and they communicated goods and also information. So if I wanted to send someone some information from one place to another, you actually had to physically send it. Imagine that, right? So people are watching this online. You're here as well with your laptops. We would have to physically send something to all of these different places to where they're sitting and lapping this up. So we had the communication of goods. Then we transitioned on into the communication of information, and that's what we use the internet for now. So in around the 1980s, it was created, but actually, does anyone know what the internet was created for originally, the first use case? Put your hand up.
Was it for the military?
For
military purposes, like communication?
No, actually it wasn't.
Well, first internet was just when 2 computers were connected.
Yeah.
Internet was created.
What was the use case, though?
I don't remember.
Okay, so we are in Sade Business School. You are all studying an MBA, right? The internet was actually created to connect people who were doing research back in the day.
He was, he was partially right.
Why?
Because DARPA helped fund and DARPA is part of the government.
DARPA,
so,
yeah.
So
Okay.
you're kind of right. Good job.
Fine. Where's the sweets?
50. Oh shit. Fuck. All right.
See?
Yeah. Keep going.
So then, if we had the internet and we used that to communicate information, what happened with blockchain? That actually allowed us to communicate value, right? So from 2009 onwards, we had blockchain in our lives. And what does communication of value actually mean? Well, we usually explain it as, if you have a phone, does everyone have a phone? Yeah? Anyone got a 3310? Yeah. Anyone got a 3310, like, doesn't have a camera? Anyone?
That would be cool.
No?
As well.
Okay. So you all have a phone that has a camera, and you can take a picture instantly these days and send it to your buddies, right? That is instant. But before, what we had to do was we took a picture, we would have film, we would have to then take it to a development shop or even, a studio of your own, develop that, and then ta-da, you've got your picture. And you would know that you have one set of those pictures because it's been created by yourself. But what happens with a digital picture, it can be sent instantly to as many people as you have on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, etc. And that could be 4, it could be millions, but ultimately you can copy that picture and also documents and data very easily in the digital age. But with blockchain, it means that you can actually restrict that, and we'll go on to explain how that looks very shortly. So, brief history of money. In the beginning of time,
There was bartering. And people would say, "Hey, I'll give you 2 sheeps for that owl." because I think that I was worth 2 sheeps.
Anyone bartered before? Yeah?
Yeah.
What have you bartered for?
Don't remember, it was a long time ago, but I did.
Yeah.
Many times.
Back when he was 7, he wanted a piece of candy, and he's like, yeah, I'll give you this yo-yo for your Snickers.
So at the beginning of time, we had bartering, and you would literally say to someone, okay, I have this. It might be sheep, it might be camels, it might be stones, it might be shells, etc. But I would like to buy whatever you have goods-wise. And that's a very decentralized method of money, essentially, right? Because it doesn't involve a third party or anyone else's decision-making. So then, from around 6000 BC onwards, we then had currencies as we know it.
600
so,
BC.
600 BC. So that looks like it could be decentralized, right? Because we had money in terms of gold, we had money in terms of shells, etc. But then we also have centralized money. What does centralized money look like? Paper, yeah, cool. Bills. Yep. Gold, it could be, but that's quite decentralized. Coins, and where does it come from? Central banks, governments, etc. Right? So we had central entities who created money or currencies. And then we introduced cryptocurrencies around 1995. So that actually looked like the ability to decentralize the money that we believe in. And it's very much, if you look at how currencies as well as cryptocurrencies operate, it's not just from a technical perspective that it works as money, but also it's the ideology behind it. So people have to have a belief in these currencies in order for it to have value.
Has anybody read Sapiens? Hands? Anybody's read Sapiens?
Yeah.
So all of you that read Sapiens, you understand that most of the stuff that we kind of barter, we identify with, the things that we work for, are usually just stories, right?
Yep.
They're all just stories that we tell ourselves. We all mutually agree that this piece of paper that may be green or blue or whatever is valuable to you. So if I give it to you, you probably have a good chance of getting something else for it.
And once you figure that out, I certainly for myself, I look at the world like, well, do I believe this story? Everything that I see or feel has value. Is that actually valuable? You start to question what the world actually looks like. Concepts of money, amigo?
So yeah, there's 3 basic concepts. You probably understand this, so we'll just run through it. So there's store of value. So whatever that is you think that you can hold it and it'll get more valuable over time. Because a lot of you are like finance and accounting and things like that, so you're all over this money stuff. Okay, next. There's unit of account. So basically I have 5 shells, and those 5 shells are worth $1. So that's good. Next. And there's exchange. So instead of bartering, you're just giving that piece of paper or circle coin.
So store of value, you have to believe that it has some kind of value.
Yeah.
And that could be a jacket. It could be money. It could be all sorts of things. But then also, if we are trying to barter, we would need to figure out how much a camel actually is worth versus an owl or a sheep, right? So you'd have a unit of account, and then medium of exchange. So essentially you have to buy, sell something. So that's exchanging goods for these types of different monies. So
Monies. This looks like a little game or a snake. So in '83, that was the first time that the concept of digital currency or digital cash came about, and that was from a guy named
David Shom.
that guy. And he wrote a paper, and he published it at, I think, a conference or something like that, and that was the first time that the concept was noted. And then after that, he created a company in push the button? I think it's 94 or 95, something like that, called DigiCash. But between there and when Bitcoin arrived in 28, you can do it again, there, 2009, whoops. Between those 2 periods, there were probably, I'd say, 9 to 10 companies that were created between that time, that were created and failed. And all those companies were trying to bring this concept of digital currency to society. And there was mainly a few, like 3 reasons they failed. It was either adoption and traction, they didn't have enough funding, or there was some sort of fraud and scam on the thing that they created. And in 2009, this mysterious character or characters, Satoshi Nakamoto, basically solved the problem that a lot of cryptographers have been trying to solve for a while. And that's basically figuring out how to scale trustless trust. And there has been some people that have solved it at the small scale, but these people or person figured out how to solve it at a bigger scale. And they did it through one kind of simple thing, which is a consensus mechanism. And consensus mechanism is basically a way for everybody in this room to trust me but not know me, basically. Or not know enough about me to trust me. And he did it through a thing called proof of work. And that's just basically computational power for your computer to solve a problem. Once it solves a problem, then it publishes a block, and we'll explain that more. But the important thing is he solved the thing which is trustless trust at a scalable way. Yeah? Cool. Next. Then Ethereum came about, which is basically distributed computation.
Nice.
And then do it again. After that, then there was a bunch of coins. There was LA token, and then there was
We don't have a token.
Cadre token.
this blockchain over here.
We won't have.
So there are basically tons of chains, tons of networks, tons of coins. All that stuff was created afterwards. A lot of them, I'd say a large percent of them were built on Ethereum, because that was one of the easiest ways to use their token, ERC20, to ICO on there. And then there's a bunch of other chains that started creating their own chains. They're saying, okay, Ethereum's not good enough because there's tons of problems. Their own thing that's better. Yeah? Super. Okay, read this comic strip. So raise of hands, who has experienced this concept? Who has ever gone through this process?
How did you handle it?
We like the same content.
So there's actually a few hands. That's good. That's more than usual. I deal with this quite a bit, a little too often. So the point with this slide is basically to state that this is an interesting technology, yes, but it's just a technology. It's a tool to be used to solve problems that are relevant. And with anything that has hype, let it be artificial intelligence, whoa, blockchain, or whatever else, people tend to get excited about technology and they think it solves everything and it fixes everything. And artificial intelligence might in the future if they get smarter than us and figure everything else out. But until that moment, they're just tools. Cool? Next. Why is it special?
So, we're going to take you through a journey of decentralized or centralized to decentralized because we know that we have technology that we use, which is centralized, but what does it actually look like from the kind of architectural perspective? So, when you think of centralized technology, you usually have a server and then you have a node, right? The server, you can think of, that has all of the information and it holds information that you would like to connect to. So for instance, if I had a computer and I had a Word document or a Google Doc, for instance, and someone wanted to actually use that or download it, they would have to connect to my computer, right? And the node might be your computer or it might be a mobile phone, right? So one server will do all. And that sometimes is the architecture in different companies where they'll have one server that does all and multiple people try to connect to it at the same time, so it's very, very slow. Then we progress on to having multiple servers that have multiple nodes connecting to each other, right? So has anyone used Netflix? YouTube? Yeah? Okay, so all of these services use this kind of architecture where you have multiple servers in different locations. So if you're, for instance, in London or in Oxford or in the UK, you would connect to a UK server as a node or someone who wants to watch cat videos or puppy videos, right? But if you are in, for instance, the US, you would be connecting to a US server. So essentially, this is how they make sure that the access to the information is very, very fast, or as instant as we see it today.
This is why Netflix is fast.
So if you're thinking, why is it slow?
Why the circle basically completes faster is because the server is closer to you.
Yeah. So then in the decentralized world, every server is a node and every node is a server, right? And everything connects to each other. So that means that if you have a copy of some information, it's copied everywhere that there is a node. And there are different types of nodes. So one node type is a full node, which holds a full copy of the blockchain data. And then there are another type, which is called a light node or a light client. And that is basically like your mobile phone. and it just peers into the blockchain to access the information rather than holding all of it. But essentially, in a decentralized world, you have nodes which equal servers, servers equal nodes, right? So then we have public versus permissioned versus private.
Yeah, we're going to speed up. Yeah, cool. We're going to go a little faster. So first I want to start here. So the definition of blockchain is basically, if you say it backwards, it's just a chain of blocks. Cool? And meaning that these blocks here, this is a little small, but this blue box here basically would be considered a block. These purple dots are data, right? So each of those bits of data is just transactions. So it could be transactions of currency, or it could be transactions of messages, or whatever the transaction is, an exchange of something, some sort of data. And they stack those into a block and they bundle them up. And once they bundle those transactions together, then what they go through is this process of hashing. So they hash the block. And to do that, in Bitcoin specifically, there's kind of 3 ingredients, right? So there's the data in the block. There's the previous hash of the past block. So that hash here for this one would be bundled into this one into this one, this one into this one. So it takes those 2 things, data and the hash, and then also takes this thing called a nonce, which is a number only used once. And basically what you do is you take this computational power of your computer and you run it through and you basically change that nonce every single time. It's a variable number. So you keep changing until you get to this kind of score. Once you get to this little number or kind of answer, you publish it to the network and say, hey, I've gotten the answer. And you know what the answer is, or you kind of know, you have a directional understanding of what it is because it's published to the network prior to you going through this process. So it publishes and you're like, all right, I got to get to that. I'm going to do these 3 things and I'm going to try to get to it. Whoever gets to it first puts the block together, hashes it, moves to the next block. Do that process again, bundle it together, done, next block. Same thing over and over and over. Yeah?
Does anyone not understand that? Put your hand up.
Could you explain hashing before anything?
Hashing. Yeah, so in a kind of a high understanding is basically you're taking data, right? So say you have a string of, say your street address, right? Street address, and you throw it through an algorithm, and pops out a jumble bunch of numbers. So it's numbers and letters, right? And it's kind of just like a gobbledygook. It doesn't make sense. But what you know is this pseudo-random number is associated to this data. Yeah?
And do you have the key to it? Is it a public key or a private key?
Right, so there's a difference between those 2 things. So there's encryption and there's hashing. Okay. So encryption is 2-way. Yeah. So encryption means I have a private key, you have a public key, and I lock this box. I send the box to you and you unlock it with a public key. And that's encryption because it's 2-way, right? I encrypt, you decrypt. Hashing is 1-way. So I throw this data through a hashing algorithm, and gobbledygook pops out. And you can go backwards, but it's quite difficult. You have to run a lot of computational power to kind of guess on what this connection is between the 2. There is no key to unlock. Yeah?
It's a mathematical representation of the data, effectively. But with parked hashing, we'll come back to it.
Yeah, we're running out of time. Good
so
what is this? Public, private, okay. So private is basically a unicorn 2 by itself. And what that means is basically Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and a couple other big tech firms have these cloud services. And in these cloud services, they have this tool where you can basically have your blockchain as a service. And if I'm a company and I say, okay, I want to have blockchain for my company because I want to kind of break down all the silos within the organization so the data can be exchanged between all the different parts, I'm going to create my own little chain and I'm going to use it myself. So that's private. The next one is permissioned, which is a consortium. So it's a bunch of companies all get together and they say, okay, I'm the leading company, so I'm going to make the rules for this playground. And if you want to come play on my swing set and you want to come play on my swing set, you have to play by my rules. So I've created this chain and I've created a group of companies. So you've seen that probably with a lot of the financial institutions. So they have R3 and Corda, Hyperledger for IBM, Hyperledger Fabric, and then a couple other ones for supply chain and things like that. But it's basically a group of companies get together, play by the same rules on this chain. And then public is when basically there is no overseeing authority that's human, but it's basically everybody has access to it. And if you access this network, you basically have to play by what the rules are baked into the system. So the rules are put into the system in the beginning, and as soon as you join, it's basically a robot telling you have to play by rules instead of a single entity saying you have to play by rules, a person or a company. Cool. What
Next.
just happened there?
Just someone coming in saying,
scared.
nope, don't want to come.
I did already public. I did that.
Cool.
Keep going. Here, so purpose of this is basically to state that there's a difference between distributed ledger technology and blockchain. So you hear the words passed back and forth. People like to talk about both of them the same thing. They're not the same thing. It might be somebody trying to either sell you something or market their company in a way that makes it look cool. So distributed ledger technology, think of it as like the overarching bit. Below that is like a sliver, and that sliver is blockchain. There's other slivers in there that are expanding and growing. Some of those are here. So there's a Tangle, which is another form of building consensus at a mass scale. And then so is Hashgraph, and there's other variations of this. Make sense? Not the same. Cool.
So to just clarify that a little bit and simplify it.
Do your best.
So, you have two different types of technology. You have distributed ledger technology, which if you think about the architecture when we were going from centralized to decentralized, the distributed ledger technology is very much kind of in the middle there, where you have a distributed network. But then if you add in incentives, as in tokens and coins that we know, like Bitcoin, or in Ethereum you have Ether, they are representations of value. And that brings an incentive model that allows people to, well, it manages people's behaviors effectively. And that's a real blockchain, okay? That's our take on it.
A real blockchain.
A real blockchain.
A real boy.
Go for it.
So you're saying that a block for a DLT to be a blockchain, it has to have value associated with it?
In our view, abso-fucking-lutely. In other people's view, they'll say no, but there are many different ways of looking at it. But actually, after this, we'll show you an infographic that will show what types and why we call DLT versus blockchain with incentives, right? But I'll park this for a second.
But basically, there has to be some sort of incentive mechanism baked into it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Next.
So go for it.
Sorry, so that chain of blocks you had with the hashing and the NOS and everything.
Yep.
So that each block contains a set of transactions that goes through a hashing, that goes through NOS, which produces a
Oh my god, that was scary.
Did I do that? so powerful.
Your question is just so authoritative. You just knocked the phone off the wall.
There's flag.
Yeah.
But like, does that block or chain of blocks, does that reside in a node within the architecture? I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
Where does that chain of blocks fit within the overall architecture?
So think of all of the data. We're using computers, essentially, to process all of this data, just like your computer or specialized hardware that processes the data and the blocks as well, right? But if you think of a blockchain, it's nothing different to having data on your hard drive, just like you store a Word document or something like this on your hard drive. And that effectively is called a node once you download all of the software. So yes, the node is holding the data if it's a full node, right?
And then you said there's the other kind of node which just peers into the block.
Yes.
Yeah. Data.
Correct.
Like your mobile or something.
Yeah.
It's just like your mobile or an IoT device.
So a node is basically just like an entity working on the blockchain.
But every node does have computation within the chain. So every
Correct.
node does the hashing and
So every node, depending on what network,
Yeah.
you're getting into the
this
nuances
is
of it, but depending on what network, every node will also validate what the previous blocks have just been processed.
and that doesn't require like crazy computational power based on the transaction because like there's so many devices.
If they are doing that validation, it doesn't require crazy computation, but if you're mining, depending on the network, it will require more computation. So can you chuck on mining, please?
Yeah.
So use cases, we're just going to roll through this very quickly, but if you are interested in different use cases around blockchain, then please take a picture of these and you can dive into some of the use cases. One of them that I just want to highlight is UPort. So in the identity space in blockchain, they've done something really interesting around creating a decentralized and digital identity. And they've used this in Zug in Switzerland to effectively have a government-created identity, which you can then use an app on your phone to prove your identity. So if you think of your driving license or your passport, they've created this in a decentralized manner. So it's very interesting that you're starting to see decentralized identity in the space. Next up, problems. So 99 problems, but blockchain ain't one.
There's a lot of problems. And the thing is, the one chain is here, I think. There was a one chain here.
One chain's not in the room, though.
Yeah, well, okay. But these two companies here, LA Token and what was the name? Cadre. Cadre. That's the company name, Cadre. Cool. So these two individuals are probably trying to solve one of the problems that are in the space. So there's tons of problems. There's scalability problems. It's not fast enough. The usability sucks. No one uses it because you have to like be a computer engineer to do it. There's all kinds of stuff. Interoperability, so everybody has their own chain. If everybody has their own chain, how do the chains talk? If you speak Spanish, I speak English, they speak Russian, no one understands each other, right? So that's another issue. And then there's also privacy issues as well with some of these coins where you can basically track exactly who did what, when it happened, and all that stuff. And that's good for certain things, for AML and solving bad crimes. But what if it's health data that you have on the chain, and you don't want people to know what your genetics are and your DNA sequence is? It's kind of like secret. So it's things like that you want to cover up if we want to use this at a mass way. Cool.
So if you are interested in some of the projects that are solving the problems, take the picture.
And there's like millions of people trying to solve this problem, or all these problems.
So if we've not bamboozled you all, and you are understanding a little bit about what the decentralized world looks like, how do you actually break into the space and apply your own skills?
Actually, hands. Who here actually is interested in either working within or adjacent to this industry? Hands.
Cool.
So I'd say like 50%. And everybody else is just interested, which is cool too. I'm just interested, kind of. I work in it a little bit. So we have 3 questions that we're going to ask you, but also we have responses from people actually working in the industry on what they think about it as well. And we put a little, he put a little video montage together. It took him a little bit, but kudos to you for doing that.
Cool. So we have questions. First question, what key traits do you think is needed when wanting to break into the blockchain space? Anyone want to give a
key traits?
Yes.
What do you think is needed? Great smile, optimism, positivity.
Go for it. Oh, I thought it was a question.
Good morals.
Go for it. Yeah.
First, you need to understand what you are trying to solve.
Yeah.
What you're trying to break into.
What you're trying to break into?
Yeah.
What area?
Question over here.
We're trying to hack.
Or a point.
I disagree with what Arjun said, that you need to have a solid business case, because this doesn't seem like something cheap to implement, because you need like a lot of resources. So like a typical thing I can think of is like in banking, I can see blockchain like getting rid of the middleman because it's distributed. So, but like it needs to solve a business problem at scale.
Sure.
Anyone else?
What about from a personal thing? What traits do you think you as an individual need?
Determination.
Determination. You need to be consistent.
Grit.
You must insist this becomes a thing. What else?
Willing to mess up and learn.
Yep.
Yeah? That sounds like my whole life.
Willing to admit you don't know stuff and just asking, what does that mean?
I feel like I'm looking in a mirror right now.
Experimentation.
Like, admit how stupid you are. Admit how you fuck up every day. Yeah. Good. What else?
Interest.
Interest. You obviously have to be curious. Cool. What did the people say?
Yeah. So we put this together. It should work. We asked them the question.
The answer would simply be curiosity. So always ask what, how, and what if.
The ability to learn. Lots of things are changing, so you need to always be learning, adapting to stay on top of what's happening.
A solid understanding of the industry that you're breaking into.
How it will impact the industry you work in. Use your existing skills.
Anything new there? Anything come as a surprise?
You know what I noticed? Ed looks scarily like this guy here.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't he? Him and Ed look like... I saw him and I was like, is this guy the one in the video?
Okay, so next video, just instead of looking at the video, just go
look at him
and compare. Cool. So you really need to understand what skills you have that will contribute to the space. But effectively what we're saying here is there's nothing new about this decentralized world in a way. You can still apply your skills in a very meaningful way, but you just need to have that curiosity and interest, effectively.
The point here is everything you just mentioned is needed for every industry, any company, whatever you're trying to solve. It's not specific to blockchain. There's not like a specific thing or a trait that you need for this. Yeah? Cool. What's the next question?
So we have problem solvers.
Okay.
We have different types of problem solvers in the space. Can anyone guess, is this actually a typo?
Where?
Here.
Oh, yeah.
Biddlers.
Did you just notice that?
Oh, it's a typo. No, it's not a typo. This is actually what they call them in the space now. Has anyone heard of HODL? Put your hands up.
Oh, yeah? I thought it was a mess up.
Yeah, no, it's real. Okay, so we have hodlers. Actually, you put your hand up. So what are hodlers, please?
Well, the people who just expect Bitcoin to keep going up and up, so they're like hold, but
yeah.
It's like hodl.
Hold, it's not hold on for dear life. People think it's hold on for dear life, where you buy your coins or your tokens and you hold on like you're running for like the marathon or something like that. But actually, it came from just a quick 10 seconds. It came from someone who was really fucked off with what was going on in Bitcoin back in the day, and he wrote on, I think it was Bitcoin Talk, like basically, fuck Bitcoin, blah, 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 I don't want to hodl anymore, but he was drunk. So everyone says hodl. So that's where it came from, but biddlers, basically people took builders and then changed it, effectively. So then we have builders who are basically coders, engineers, or other people who are building the ecosystems, right? Designers, who might they be?
Yeah, so designers, it's easy to think that when you think of designer, you automatically think someone designing the product. But it's more than just someone designing the product, but they're designing actually the ecosystem in itself if you're actually working on a network. Because you need to figure out exactly what economic incentives do you need to put in this chain to make sure that people are acting in the way that you want them to act. So there's economists, there's people that are working in the space from that angle as well, but also there's designers of communities. Because what you're doing is you're building a community. You're trying to build out a group of people that believe in this thing. So think Facebook, right? So Facebook was a community. There was a bunch of colleges, everybody kind of talking back and forth. What they were trying to achieve was a community of people to interact, right? That's the same thing they're trying to do with this, making it useful for others. Cool.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Governors. Who might they be? So we might think of regulators in this space, but we saw previously in the problems area around the decentralized world, we also need to understand and figure out governance, right? What does a decentralized governance structure look like when we actually decentralize information, value, and technology? So we need to have governors who are starting to think about the governance mechanisms and models behind this decentralized world. Communicators.
So those are basically people that are storytellers. People that are basically either marketing, so they're marketing a product or a network, or they're basically trying to educate like ourselves, so we're trying to educate people in the space. And there's also people that are basically trying to uplift their company in a way that they're either pitching it or they're trying to tell a compelling story that gets people behind the story that they're creating, and they're hiring people like yourselves. They're saying, I'm going after this mission, and I want you to join my journey, and I want you to be a part of it. I'll give you stock of the company, or I'll give you a bunch of money. But join me. Yeah?
So if you're great at storytelling, you can apply your skills there. Maybe it's marketing that you're interested in, you can apply your skills there as well. So communicators are very, very important, not just because we're an education company and we're a communication company. So investors. Investors, what do they look like?
Investors, so it's not just a VC. And it's not just a private equity, but it's actually people that are doing more than just giving money. And this is actually interesting because Elliot and I started our kind of journey in the investment space.
Yep.
Because we were basically evaluating white papers, evaluating companies on ICOs, and looking at them from all different aspects. So the business, the tech, the people, the traction, all that stuff. And we would actually evaluate them for different VC firms in London. And we provide our opinion, and we debate around the table and say, we think this, this, and this because of these reasons, and we provide our rationale and our logic. And then by doing that, we kind of embedded ourselves further into the community. We met a lot more people, and then we kind of built out this thing, and we started doing things that interested outside of just investments. Question?
What methodologies you used to value that?
Methodologies? Yeah. Fucking not, I don't know.
What's that? So there are many different ones. I'm going to park that because we'll take ages going through this.
What do you mean by methodology?
Like
how your investment thesis and all this kind of stuff, right?
There's not really like existing market, existing comparable objects, so how really
You're using terms I don't understand, Elliot.
So basically, that's because you're not from much finance for a while.
Yeah, sure.
So in 10 seconds, and we'll come back to it, the decentralized world was born and people wanted to invest in it. It was very, very new, so we had to figure out, I say we because the whole world did, had to figure out what this actually looked like, where the value came from, what the technology was doing, and also how to interact with the people and products and services, right? So when you start to evaluate that stuff, you can start to basically look at where the projects have their value, what the problems they're trying to solve, and all of the kind of investment thesis that you look at in the centralized finance world, you can apply some of that methodology to the decentralized world as well. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
We'll come back to it. Go for it.
Did any of the venture capital firms that you read white papers for, did they invest in any of the projects?
Yeah.
Loads, yeah.
There was a gaming one, an energy one, and then I think a privacy one as well. So it was quite interesting, and we don't have time for this, but it was like a 3-hour Sunday session. We'd have VCs and entrepreneurs around the table, give homework to them a week prior, say read these 3 white papers, come to the room with education and informed, and we'll debate for 3 hours, use the whiteboard, talk about stuff, and then we'll come out with a conclusion, kind of thing.
Groovy. So
next question. Of the 5 buckets we've listed, which of these do you see that needs the most attention? So we'll start out with builders. Hands. Who do you think that's the most needed one? Builders? Oh, interesting. Okay. And 2 guys in the space. So next, who thinks we need designers? Hands? Designers? Okay, a little bit more. Okay, how about governors? Ooh, look at that. All right.
It's interesting because we're in the finance world, and you know, you guys are doing an MBA, so maybe potentially a little bit biased towards governors, etc.
And communicators? Hands? Okay. Lastly, investors. Oh,
you double voted there.
Yeah. You triple voted.
Triple vote.
He needs all 5 circles.
I would agree with you. It's an ecosystem at the end of the day and a community.
1 hour does not really exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So every one of these is required. Therefore, if you feel that you sit in a certain bucket or in a certain area, then you can absolutely apply your skills and contribute to this space. So let's hear what the other guys said. Ed's coming up soon, right?
Yeah.
For me, the thing that needs the most attention is
Communicators.
Communicators, educators.
building products that solve real problems.
I'm sure I would use it was builders.
Is the product that solves the problem.
So, did everyone get that? Dylan said it was far too quick, like at the start. Was it too quick for you guys? Yeah? Okay, my editing skills are lacking. I will try harder next time. But basically, you need all of these different types of people and skills in the ecosystem to be contributing. So that's effectively what they said. Next.
Okay, what would you say to people thinking about breaking into the blockchain space? So if you were advising someone or mentoring someone and saying like, man, I really want to go to blockchain, what should I do? How should I do it? Help me. Help you. Help me. Somebody say wine?
Yeah.
I said wine.
Wine, yeah.
Why? Oh, he said wine. I was like, what?
I mean, that's enough.
So you need wine, so you drink that, and then you figure it out. Ah, why? Okay. It is. You're right. Good point. Okay, so you need to have a why. What else? What else would you give that person advice if you're mentoring them? I'm sure some of you have mentored in the past. Here?
Well, obviously, some key understanding behind the technology and what business you're going into. So if you do understand, say, blockchain, but you've never done any business, probably you should leave blockchain, do the business, and then come back to blockchain.
Okay, that's interesting.
Did you tell the people doing ICO after ICO that?
Well, if they were actually, if people were telling that to people,
they wouldn't have done that.
Less scams.
Yeah. Anything else?
Faith.
Faith.
In the technology.
You have to have faith. You have to believe. If you believe, it will achieve. Han.
Temper your expectations.
Temper your expectations.
Yeah.
That's actually a good point for life. Set low expectations.
Blockchain is life.
Yeah. Debatable. Go to the video. What's next?
There he is. Look who's up!
There he is.
Wait till I speak to
There
him.
is a lot
my God.
Make your dreams come true! The decentralized world needs you regardless of whether you're a marketing professional, software developer, or business analyst.
Be patient. The technology may be truly brilliant, but without the right culture, implementation will be difficult.
If you were to break into a blockchain space, just jump in. Lots of fun.
He has a lot of books behind him, so you know he reads. Or he's out of Waterstones. All right, next.
So, we've already told you where you can help.
Yep.
So next is, we just wanted to show you a little bit about real careers and jobs that are out there under each of these buckets. So these are some of what we found in the decentralized world. Just FYI, we don't, we don't support these companies effectively. We just found these jobs and they're for your benefits. So we don't, we don't want to highlight our allegiances or whatever.
Yeah.
So you have like blockchain business architects there. So that's part of the biddlers or builders, right?
And we could peruse through these. So basically what we've done is we've put screenshots of different jobs that are easily findable, easily accessible, and that are in companies that are hiring right now, in areas in all the buckets. And this is just one of many that we found. We just thought these were the most interesting. Continue? You just go through them. So we have communicator.
Wait.
Yeah,
I just want to highlight this one.
This is a little strange.
Church of England. Church of England are in the blockchain space. I found that
you know,
interesting.
God needs blockchain too. Next. Okay, good. Oh, yeah, I should have said that. You're right. Okay, good. Next. Okay, what is that? What is that?
So, we always want to make sure that you walk away with at least something to get your teeth into to continue this journey. So we have actually created, this was originally to share with us, but we opened it up today for you guys. We've created a list of the books that we have read or are reading, not just in a decentralized space, like everything in life, effectively. So it has that. It also has notes on those books. It has videos, blogs, podcasts that we listen to or read. And it's just full of really, really good information. So
if you just want to dive into our brains, you might not find much, but hey, it's there.
If you go to bit.ly/NU Learning, you'll be able to get to this page and have a little look. Groovy. Communities.
So we put this here because basically we wanted to let you know that it's easy to get access to these communities as well. It's not like a far-off utopian place that no one goes to. It's all around you, especially in Oxford. So I did a little online research. I did, I don't know, like an hour or so. And I found there's 5 or 6 groups here, actually, in Oxford that are doing blockchain stuff. So you should check it out on Eventbrite and Meetup.com. Those are really kind of where a lot of communities are. And actually, that's where Elliot and I got involved in the community in London. As we started hanging out at meetups and Eventbrites in London, and we started meeting people and started kind of holding doors and moving chairs and doing things for people. And then by doing that, we were getting access to the knowledge and the resources and stuff that they were using. So we were kind of siphoning that away and spending our nights and weekends studying that and then coming back and helping them. So I definitely recommend Meetup and Eventbrite. You can obviously have online stuff. So this here, these two, Telegram and Discord, this is where the blockchain people hang out online because they think it's safer. So they go here, and then they thought this was lame, so they started going here, which is like a video game chat. Has anybody heard of Slack here? Slack? Yeah? These are just like Slack, but not as cool. So basically that's what those are.
Matrix as well.
Matrix?
Yeah, well, it's worth putting in the...
What's Matrix?
What's it called?
Matrix, you don't know about Matrix?
It's like the same thing?
Like the film?
No, it's a decentralized protocol, so basically where you can put a client on top. So there are basically 10 different clients. So you can either obviously use Matrix servers to run all your communication, or your own server.
So it's for communication though, right?
Yeah, Matrix called it.
No, it's Matrix. You should know about Matrix. Come on, man. Okay.
All right, Ed. Thanks.
Thanks, Ed. Wrote it down. So these are other areas you can get involved. But Reddit's also good as well. And Twitter's a good source for education. So if you follow the right people, you get a lot of really good information. Cool. Communities. What else? Oh, a quote.
So, this is just a quick quote from Brené Brown that I found very interesting. When you're thinking about applying your own skills and getting into the blockchain world, the decentralized world kind of operates and works in a different way to how you might look at the centralized world. you know, things like using your CV and applying for different jobs, or who you know, is definitely still part of the whole process of getting into this space. But you actually need to be quite creative with how you go about doing that. So it's things like, would you be prepared to work for free, for instance? Who would be prepared to work for free if you were moving forward? Yeah?
That's interesting. That is very interesting. Okay. Who here would be willing to take a step back? Holy shit. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so effectively, you need to be quite creative with how you actually apply your own skills and then start to look at the decentralized world. So get creative. If you have a thought about how you can actually interact with someone, you have computers, you have your phones, you have access to absolutely everyone that you admire or would like to shadow. So the possibilities of actually accessing these people and getting the job of your dreams is very, very real. So it needs to be in your hands.
One last point. I was talking to Maria and one of the recruiter guys here, not a recruiter guy, what was the guy? I don't have to say his name, but it was like a career development person, right? He worked in the careers team in Oxford for the MBAs. And he was telling us the process of how you apply for jobs and how you get access to certain companies and things like that, and how you have to get cut down from 10,000 to 5,000 to 5,000 to 3,000, 3,000 to 100 or something like that. And your chances are like absolutely like almost zero, unless you're a superstar. And has anybody heard of the third door concept? Hands for third door. No. So it's a simple analogy where basically you're going into the entrance. So let's say you're trying to get into a club, right? Really nice club. And everybody is lined up around the block. And you're in that line around the block. And there's 10,000 people in that line waiting to get into the club. They're only accepting 100. Then there's a second door, which is maybe you came from a wealthy family and they're well connected. So you have a great chance of getting in because that line's shorter and you're in this section. And then there's the third door, which when you go through the kitchen. So you're friends with the chef, you knock on the window 10 times, he lets you in, you sneak through the kitchen, then you get into the club. So the issue with this whole concept is that so many people, myself included, tend to focus on what, we tend to follow everybody else in the traditional path to get into wherever we're trying to go. Let it be a big company like Goldman Sachs, or let it be a small startup that you're interested in. You're always trying to kind of follow the herd. But if you go around to the third door and actually kind of think differently, like he mentioned, and creatively, you make connections, you make yourself look different than others, so you kind of niche down in an area and you promote yourself through whatever, a website or YouTube channel or podcasting that you create your own, or you create a blog or whatever it is, but you're making yourself stand out than just throwing in a CV and a resume and saying, hey, I went to Oxford, so help brother out. You know? So it's important to think about it differently.
Groovy. So, bring out your phones.
Phones.
I like that. So we've made a glossary and also a list of resources that you can also use, as well as the learning page. This is more specific to the decentralized blockchain and crypto world. It has a list of over 70 plus resources that takes you from very, very simple concepts right through to the mind-blowing stuff, everything from videos, blogs, podcasts, etc. So you can go to bit.ly/node glossary if you can't scan it. I'll give you 5 seconds for this one. Got it? Did it work?
Yeah.
Groovy.
Nice.
And one last thing, we always like to understand how we did. So bring your phones out again, or keep them up, and just scan this QR code and take 30 seconds to give us some feedback with how did we do? If it was fantastic for you, then let us know. If you want more information on certain areas of the space, then let us know as well.
If it was horrible and we sounded like we didn't know what we were talking about, or we just weren't good, let us know that as well.
Anti-fragile. But also we have some time for Q&A now.
Yeah, so we're scheduled to be here till 6:30, but you're more than welcome to leave if you got other things to do or places to be. We'll stick around till 6:30. We'll answer these, and also we'll answer whatever other questions you have related to the space, either technical or non-technical, how to get involved, all that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Made it.
Plenty of time.
Yeah. Anyone got any questions? Go for it.
Yeah.
How do you create different chains if it's all based on the same node and server system? Is it just that the servers are no longer connected to the other group of servers and system and nodes?
What do you mean by different chains? Is it different networks or chain splitting?
They're talking about developing their own blockchain.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how can you develop your own blockchain if it's in theory supposed to be a way of tracking and maintaining all the data in a way that we can't do it right now using traditional either computers or paper and special things?
So if you think about it as you have a blockchain or a set of code on your computer, and you've just created your own network, and then you then open that up to other people, it's a specific type of code and blockchain, right? So you've created your own flavor of one, effectively. That's how Cadre have theirs. That's how there is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and 2,000 plus networks out there. They all run on different types of code, but then you can also create networks on top of blockchains. So you can create networks on top of Ethereum, for instance, right? And that would be using, basically it's called a sidechain. And then you have your main chain. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so basically they've augmented the original code that was developed to create their own.
Yep.
Yeah, but also you can create your own code. So you can clone code, right? So you can take any open source blockchain and then create your own code. Your own blockchain. Or you can start from scratch, right? So there's two different kind of ways. Or you can take bits from different protocols and then build them together.
So how does that solve the issue? Because I thought one of the points of the blockchain is it's a way of tracking information.
It is, yeah.
Making sure that it can't be hacked, you can't lose track of that. That's happened.
Yep.
For you going for a mortgage for your house, right? You know everything before you.
Yep.
There's no loss in title or anything like that. How does that work though if everyone can in theory come up with their own blockchain? Because then you have to figure out a way to have all the different blockchains talk to each other. So
There's a problem, right? So interoperability is massive as a problem. It's just like, for instance, you have Facebook, you have YouTube, you have Google. All of these are different networks, effectively, or communities. And the technology needs to be able to speak to one or the other. So you start creating APIs. You know what an API is? And basically that allows you to have the communication going between networks.
Also, the live stream, do you want to check?
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's any questions online.
I don't even know how to do it.
Can you talk a little more about governance structures that are either already in place or like what you see as necessary in
Yeah, governance structures, what are in place today? So there's a few interesting governance structures that have come about, like I think there's quadratic voting and different things like that, but usually they're either, it's kind of like traditional, right? So they either have something that's federated, so they have like a single source that rules all, which is kind of like the permission thing. Then they have a voting mechanism where, say, it's basically like putting up votes, right? And you say you have 100 votes. I give you 100, you get 100, 100, everybody gets 100, right? So each vote that you've, so I would be the person that created the chain, right? So, right. And then the people, part of the community, vote on what should happen. So for instance, Bitcoin. I'll use Bitcoin because that's what everybody knows about, right? So for that specifically, they have the